Friday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. The Browns headed out west, hoping that the change will do them good. They face the Raiders Sunday, 4 o'clock in Las Vegas. Kevin Stefanski with an update on the injured offensive players. Also asked about the importance of getting the run game going.
Jack Conklin, Jed Wills, David Njoku, Pierre Strong are out. We want to score points any which way we can, run, pass. We've had some success in the RPO game where it goes down as a throw, but we kind of see it as an extension of the run game too. So anything that moves the football down the field, gets us in the end zone, we're looking forward to doing with our team. Obviously, the run game and the pass game, we need to be more efficient in both areas. And ultimately, that's where explosives tend to come when you're staying efficient in those areas.
And let's welcome in Garrett Bush, 92.3 The Fan, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. G. Bush, they know what the offensive line is. Now you have to, as a head coach, as an offensive coordinator, whatever you want to call them, you better design a game plan that understands our offensive line's not good.
Listen, hopefully that's gamemanship. And obviously, Kevin Stefanski is not going to come out on game week and say, you know what, we're going to run the ball 45 times this week. But hopefully that's something that they think about doing because no longer can you say, this is exactly what we want, run it or pass it. We just want to score points. That's all it's about. No, that's not necessarily true anymore. Right now, I came out and I did a blog and I said right now the Cleveland Browns offensive line is the worst offensive line in the league. And, Jed Wills looks like he wasn't ready to play. And then when he was out there, he quite didn't know what he looked like he was wanting to do. DeJuan Jones looks like he's heavy. He's out of shape. It looks like he's hurting. It looks like he is hobbling out there on one leg. And then you're going to be without Wyatt Teller for at least 4 weeks. Ethan Pochich looks like a shell of himself. He didn't do anything. And then when you got Nick Harris to come in the game, he might be a fullback at this point because he didn't block anybody when he was a center. He's really undersized. And now you have Zach Zenner coming in with his first start. I thought he did pretty well in spot duty, but you're going to have him. You're going to now have to decide whether or not you're going to have Joe Bitonio playing left tackle. I thought he played a little better after the initial. He gave up a pressure earlier in that game when he first got in at left tackle. But look, the recipe for the Browns has to be different. All of this cute passing stuff and all of the grandiose thoughts of they were going to throw the ball downfield. When you look at the advanced analytics of the whole situation, the offensive line, by every situal metrics, it says that they're giving up the most pressures, the most sacks. They're not giving you anything in the run game as far as the push, and your receivers are creating the least amount of separation. These guys are probably the slowest receiver core in the league by the average miles per hour on deep passes. That tells you one or two things. You're going to have to commit to running the football like you did against the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're going to have to go to an old school approach, and it doesn't mean you got to be, vanilla. You can still do some things in the run game to be creative, to take your shot plays. And I don't care if that involves Deshaun Watson running the football with his legs. You may have to have the design runs. You may have to have some of those things in there. And when the RPO, he's talking about run pass option for the running backs, you might have to have some RPOs where he's designed to take and keep the ball himself too, because right now he's one of your most dynamic playmakers. So you're going to have him carry the ball a little more. Right now, the Browns need to do anything necessary, and that means paring down the game, paring down the 5 wide and all of the spread stuff, and getting back to ground zero and running the football. If you can get a game and you can win games with Case Keenum and PJ Walker doing some of this stuff, you should be able to do some of these same things with Deshaun Watson because you're going to need to.
Yeah. So the other thing is, as an example of what we're talking about, Mac points this out. L.A. Rams had more offensive line injuries than the Browns, if you can believe that. Ran the ball 26 times for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against the 49ers. And he does make the point, McVay was patient enough not to abandon the run. They fell behind the 49ers and came back. Kevin Stefanski needs to do it against the Raiders. Defense that is 30th in rush yards allowed and 32nd in yards passing. So the Raiders have been struggling defensively. And all I'm saying is you find a way to do what you need to do. You almost want to shorten the game because
you of course. If that's the game plan, that's it. But I get what you guys want to do, and I understand that you brought Dorsey in to do certain things. But listen, man, when you're a leader and you're a general of a army or a general, and you got to read the lay of the land. That's number one. Number two, you got to look at see what kind of weapons do you got? What's the morale of the people? What is your rations looking like, man? I hate to get into football as military, but what I'm talking about from a strategy standpoint, if they got the high ground, it's really kind of dumb to keep marching up there. You're gonna have to figure out a different way to skin a cat, so to speak. And you're good at with the multiple tight end and multiple linemen. That you got a guy in Deontay Foreman that can run the ball. You saw it against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The best part of your defense, even though they're banged up a little bit, best part of your team is your defense. And why would you not? You've shown that you can play that way and win football games with inferior quarterback play, with rookies and PJ Walker and Joe Flacco off the couch. So why would you expand the playbook when you don't have the weapons outside, you don't have the protection up front? What are you doing? You can't come into this game and say, oh, well, we weren't being successful with the run and we got down behind. That's an excuse. Even if you're down 7 points, you still have to go out there and try to move the football and play keep away to a certain extent, because you know that you can play that way and win, especially when you got backups up front. For once, let your offensive linemen tee off on somebody instead of those guys being always being assaulted with these pass rushers and guys getting after your quarterbacks. The Giants blitz, 30, almost 40% of the time against the Browns. So when you look at it, don't let those guys tee off on you. Use that against them and be aggressive yourself. And it's hard to rush the passer when you're getting off double team blocks. Trust me, I'm a defensive lineman. I know it's kind of difficult getting after the quarterback when it's a constant dose of power and run and zone and gap schemes and duo schemes up front. So do that. That's what you got to do. Do it by any means necessary.
So along those lines of why you shouldn't abandon the run early and why you need to run the football, the Browns through 3 weeks, so this is this season, have the most drops of any team in the NFL with 14, ahead of the Giants, Packers, Rams, Titans, Cardinals, Jets, and Chargers. So bad on the wide receivers, not helping out the quarterback. The wide receivers have to be better. They just have to be better.
Yeah, and see, this is the part that gets you, is because when you're watching this, people say, yeah, everybody has drops, and you got to understand it. People say all the time, one play didn't cause us to lose a game. No, that's a lie. like I don't know if you guys have been playing like that whole cliche is the biggest lie I've ever heard. Like when if you jump off sides and give a team a first down and they get to run a clock out, you lost the game. Your coach lets you know it, your defensive line lets you know it, your teammates know it. All that stuff is for the other fans out here saying, oh, well, listen, if there were many plays they could have been made. No. When the game was on the line, you screwed it up. Now, look, these passes can change the complexion of the game. Amari Cooper drops a corner route, right? He drops a wide open corner route. The Browns have the ability to possibly go up 17-0. That game is completely done after that. That game is, you put themselves in situations where you do that. Another thing, hey, Greg Newsome, if you don't put your hands at the quarterback's face, now the Cleveland Browns are up 10-0. They possibly get that ball inside the 20 in Giants territory. And instead of the Giants having confidence like, oh, guys, we can turn this thing around, they're thinking, oh, here we go again. And now you could put them away early. So Yeah, one or two plays can really make the difference in the game. And one or two drops stops third downs. It stops the chains from being moving. It's the difference between 7 points on the board and 3 points on the board. It's the difference between having third and manageable or third and 10. All these things you have to help your quarterback. And of course, Deshaun Watson has to play better. I watched 5 or 6 throws where he has to hit these layups. He got to hit the layups that the gimme routes. But the other guys aren't doing them much of a favor either when you have one of the worst offensive lines and you're dropping the ball at the highest rate in the NFL.
Yep. So we've been talking about it. Offense is a mess. Ken Dorsey was asked if the offensive line, which has been especially bad, is being asked to do different things schematically this year.
When we came in and we evaluated, obviously, I think there was a lot of good things that we kept, and I wouldn't say there was a, massive overhaul or anything like that. I think, when you look at it at the end of the day, it's, we got to execute better from top to bottom. We got to coach it better. We got to execute better, and make sure that we're doing the things to, mix it up on a defense and try to keep them off balance to make sure that they can't, get vertical and keep them guessing as well. So I think you saw, really saw that as the, stretches of that game where we got into a rhythm, we got moving the ball, we were protecting, and we were doing a lot of good things. It's just the consistency of doing that and the execution piece from the coaching standpoint all the way down.
Bush, I didn't think they got into a rhythm very much at all against the Giants offense. Maybe against the Jaguars, but I think the offense kind of looked disjointed. You and I were talking. I couldn't tell you what they were trying to do against the Giants. I really couldn't.
Maybe I'm the first person to say it. You guys can go ahead and give me credit for it if you want to. It don't work. I'm just telling you this right now. When it comes to organizational communication and how you do it, I'm a big fan of the movie Drumline. One band, one sound. And when you got somebody who's creating the plays, he's the offensive coordinator. He's the one who gives the offensive coordinator is the heartbeat of what they're trying to do. He's the mastermind. When you create the routes, you're creating routes with certain people and certain things in mind. Coupled with that is how you create something and then how you go about the process of the rhythm of calling the plays that you created. We've had this since Kevin Stefanski is here. Tell me, I'm going to ask you the question. The only common denominator is Kevin Stefanski calling the plays. If you were going to do this, Kevin, why have a change in anything? Because it seems like you made a change based on some stuff that Alex Van Pelt was doing, but you're calling the plays. So now you bring in another guy in, right, who you wanted to be more vertical. You wanted to have an identity of throwing the ball more, but you kept controlling the play calling. I don't see how that is one band, one sound. I don't see how you can have two competing, like, hey, listen, we all been married, right? Right? Listen, the children have to hear mom say something and then dad back what mom say up. If you go to dad, it's the same thing. We all know. What did your mother say? We all know what it is. You got to have one voice. And I'm sitting here and he's saying, well, we had some things go correctly and we had rhythm. No, they didn't. There's two different people calling it up. I want Deshaun Watson on during the week to be with one person. And they say, we drawing it up this way. And then when they call the play in, it's his voice, that one person that's in his ear. And if Kevin Stefanski wants to do that, he has to stand on it and say, I'm the coordinator, I'm the calling the plays. But you can't have it both ways. Because I can't look at Ken Dorsey and say Ken Dorsey is the problem when you've been calling the plays the whole time you've been here.
Yeah, I something clearly isn't working, and everything's on the table at this point when you're 1-2. The other thing that was concerning, Brown's defense, which I'm stunned they gave up two long touchdown drives in the first half of the game. Jim Schwartz asked about what he wants to see corrected this week from that Giants game.
Probably my biggest disappointment in that game was our drive right before the half. Our offense turned the ball over. Their in field goal range, but they have a new kicker. And, we need to go out and cover our offense with that and get off the field, hold them to a field goal attempt. And it was like completion, 5 plays, touchdown. And whether it was our attitude wasn't right, we were, when you take the field after that sudden change, that's when you really need to rise. And when we had a second chance to do it in the fourth quarter, we executed that about as well as you can execute. They're already in field goal range, hold them right there. They try a field goal, and the guy missed a field goal. I mean, if he makes that field goal, game's out of reach there completely. So tackle better. Our tackling in the first half. Anytime you don't tackle well, your defense isn't going to look very good. And we were probably about twice the rate of missed tackles that we normally are in a game. You're not going, again, it's the NFL. You're not going to make every single one, but our rate was too high, particularly in some critical situations.
Yeah, and G-Bush, he got right to it right there. They got to tackle better, especially they were second and long, and they got to third and short. They were third and long, and they made first downs. That's what he was going to continue and dwell on that.
Yeah, and I like what he talked about attitude. Like, and I've played on, majority of my time playing in, high school, college, and I played on the defensive side of the football. And sudden change is a mindset. Sudden change is a thought process where, yeah, you're not going out there feeling sorry for yourselves, right? You're going out there saying that this is an opportunity for us to show up and make our mark on this football game. And in sudden change, your attitude is, hey, we stopping them right here. We don't care what just happened. We got an opportunity to come out here and pick the offense up and do what we need to do and get a chance to give them the ball back and do our part in this thing. And to me, I don't see the same part of the urgency. I just don't see the urgency in this team defensively. They're still good. They're still plays. They can still give you flashes of what they were last year. But last year, they played with faith. They played with a certain amount of faith and hunger and passion that said, hey, we got DTR, we got PJ Walker, we got Joe Flacco. We don't know when Deshaun Watson going to play, but we doggone it. We too doggone good for us to go out like this. We're not going out like this. If we got to hold people to 3 points or 2 points or whatever the case may be, we will do that. This year, it seems like there's a little apathy. The hunger isn't there, sometimes, and they usually, feed on Myles Garrett. Myles is banged up a little bit. Myles does not have that same, and sometimes when your best player is banged up a little bit, it's hard for him to get up and be the emotional leader. Well, that means somebody else got to be the emotional leader. That means instead of knocking the balls down, those have to be interceptions. Right? You can't put your hands in the quarterback's face and negate turnovers. You got to be on point, and somebody has to pick it up and say, listen, guys, it might not get no better on the offensive side of football, but we are well capable. There's the Darius Smiths of the world. You've made plays in this league. Martin Emerson, you got beat up pretty good by a rookie. I need you to get back into the game and get your mind together. Denzel Ward, hey, listen, they ain't not coming your way, but if they do come your way, I need all of those to be not defended passes. These need to be interceptions. And JOK, hey, we need to take this football away. That's the mindset they got to have if the Browns want to win. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. It ain't going to get no better offensive line play. You're not going to get it. So Deshaun Watson, put the cape on. Like, you're going to have to be special. You're not going to get any – just plan on being special. And that's for all the guys that's supposed to be special on this team. We need plays.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. On the other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
You know what I think? I don't think you have the stones.
Oh, I've got the stones. I think you're the one that don't have the stones.
Let's settle this once and for all.
Amble up to the 4 new Ohio Lottery scratch-offs with all kinds of stones. Gemstones, diamond, emerald, sapphire, and ruby 10s. $10 each, 10 times multipliers. 2 fast spots for quick draw wins of up to $100 and a $500,000 grand prize. Which one will you get when you order them up? Well, that's just the luck of the draw.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from 92.3 The Fan, the ultimate Cleveland sports show. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, it's Tim from Cleveland. In training for the sessions, why don't they have Deshaun have 3 seconds to throw the ball and then blow the whistle dead on the design plays where he only has a little bit of time? I think that would help him process faster because what you practice, you do. Thanks. Have a good one.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. G. Bush, there are no bad ideas, but I think it's speed of the game. He's got to process it, and it looks like he's not seeing it or he's not trusting what he sees, neither of which is good.
Yeah, so I'll always say this. Every time you play the game, the speed of the game gets faster from every level that you go. I guarantee people, if you've watched the game from the sidelines, it will freak you out. Just the sheer speed at which the game moves is at a breakneck pace. And for a lot of fans who have gone, to watching the games, and football is the most, popular sport in America. So the more you see it on TV, it doesn't do it justice in terms of the speed of the game. A lot of times we've gone to, now people are freeze framing things and saying that guy's open. You got to understand something. Deshaun Watson is standing behind guys that are 6'5", 6'6", 300 pounds. He's throwing through windows that are a couple of inches wide. He's throwing with timing. He's supposed to throw the ball before you even see it, right? So, it may sound like you're onto something where you say, just make sure that have him throw the ball in 1 or 2 seconds. Here's the problem. All routes take different times to develop. All of those routes, you're not just throwing based on whether you see a guy open. To throw a certain football and run option routes, you have to diagnose what the defense is running. They could be running cover 6, cover 4, cover 3, cover 1. They could be blitzing and dropping linemen into coverage. So the processing rates at which you need to be able to process information is at breakneck speeds. That's why they get paid the amount of money they do. And a lot of times when they don't look good, people believe, oh, it's just this will clear everything up. No, because not only does Deshaun Watson have to throw with anticipation, the receivers have to see the same coverage that he does. And that dictates what route the guy's going to run. So instead of running a slant, he can keep going vertical. Instead of running a vertical route, he can run a dig. He can run a sit down or a curl or a shallow drag. All of those things, both people have to see, and both people have to see it under 3 seconds. So it's just not the quarterback. Also, you got to take into consideration the offensive line doesn't know where the defensive line is going. So, the pressure could be coming from anywhere. So it's not as easy as it seems to just say, hey, like 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Yeah, that works in street football. Not necessarily when you're talking about guys throwing the football with anticipation with guys that are twice my size trying to break their necks. Just don't work that way.
This one's from Dogs by Nature. It's kind of interesting. 3 strategies the Browns must live by against the Raiders coming up Sunday. Number 1, keep it simple on offense. Going into the season, if the Browns' offense would be one of the worst in the league, you probably wouldn't believe it, but it is. Number 2, limit Davante Adams and force turnovers on defense. And number 3, limit Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. Those are defensive end and defensive tackle who are premier pass rushers. G-Bush, that's a roadmap right there. I especially think don't get too cute on offense.
And too cute, I don't mind. I don't mind some trickery when you need to do it in the run game. Just because you're running the ball don't mean you have to be vanilla. You can get creative with your formations. You can get creative with the way that you block things and scheme things up front. But the thing that you cannot do, which I think the Browns have done a horrible job of the last 3 weeks, is not understanding who you have up front and then playing a style that's not conducive to Come on, like you're dropping back with guy. I wouldn't put it like this. I wouldn't drop back to throw the ball 40 times a game if Jet Wills and DeJuan Jones was completely healthy. That just goes to show you where I think they are as pass blockers. Like I'm not gonna be drop back passing with Jed Wills on Max Crosby. Period. So what do you think I'm going to do when there's backups and James Hudson in the game? You can't do that. And then you're asking your quarterback to throw in anticipation, step up in the pocket. Oh, matter of fact, let's elude 3 or 4 rushers. Let's get the ball out. And that's nerve wracking. It's just for me to sit here and say it's exhausting. Do you know what it must be like to be behind that line? So what you can do is, hey, how's about this? Max Crosby can't rush the quarterback if they're running the ball, can he? Right? He has a bad ankle. Let's test that out. How's about we double team you, Max? Push off on that ankle a couple times. But your ankle always feels good after about 3 or 4 sacks, though. Every defensive line is completely healthy on 3rd and 10. Ask you. They're like, you want to come out the game? No. 3rd and 10, I'm good, coach. That 2nd and 2, come get me. Come get me. This is the rundown.
3rd and 10 is better than ice or any type of medical thing for an ankle. G. Bush is always great.
All of them.
It's always great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you.
G. Bush, make sure you check him out. 92.3 The Fans, The Barber Shop, 8 until noon on Saturdays. Also, you can catch him on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 11 until 1. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, Lance Reisland joins us. Film breakdown, video analysis, keys to beating the Raiders, a game the Browns have to have. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey guys, can you enlist Lance Reisland to illustrate some offensive plays designed to beat the blitz? Then, are we seeing Coach Stefanski using these plays to slow down the blitz? And are we capable of executing them properly? Or, if he's not making these adjustments, I guess, why not? Let's face it, the blitz is coming until we beat it, and hopefully make teams pay for blitzing us with some big plays. Need this one in Vegas. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland, plain dealer at cleveland.com. We'll get to some keys to beating the Raiders in just a minute, Lance. But what about that? What are some blitz beaters? And I agree with the caller 100%. They haven't shown the ability to get it patched up and make somebody pay. You're going to see that until you start making teams pay.
Well, there's a number of things you can do against a blitz. So the first thing you got to do is that you got to figure out a way where are your hots. So do you have hots built in, meaning do you have short routes that the quarterback can throw to? Sometimes those are built in. Sometimes the receiver and the quarterback got to see it. I don't see that out of the Browns right now. I think that's something they can get to. Next is, do you find matchups? Can you find matchups? Because when you do blitz, you're going to get man coverage. And what the Browns got to do is they got to create some formations that are going to allow them to create matchups in their favor. Move those guys inside to the slot so throws are shorter. And then, again, with the blitz, I think sometimes it helps if you max protect. So right now the Browns protect with 5 guys a lot of the time. Maybe they protect with 6 or 7. But you are correct. And if you don't show that you can beat the blitz, they're going to continue to blitz. But I will say this. As an offensive coordinator for a long time, if you can beat the blitz one time, that will make that defensive coordinator for the next game not be as trigger happy with those blitzes. So Browns got to show the ability to beat it once in a while. They got to show the ability to protect once in a while, max protect. But there are some options they have. And, if you're going to get man coverage, find Cooper, find Judy, find Moore against a safety, against a linebacker. And I think they'll do that as they move forward.
Yeah, and to your point about motion, I'm guessing they're hesitant to do motion because they've had so many penalties. They're second in the league in penalties. But I digress. Let's dive into the Raiders. Some keys to beating the Raiders, and I agree again with Caller. We need this one. Number one is Gardner Minshew, and you have to get him off his spot. We saw him create problems for this Browns defense last year when he was with the Colts.
So right here, you're going to see Gardner Minshew is a guy. If he gets pressured, he makes a lot of plays, but his head goes down, and when he's off schedule, or he gets hurried, or he gets his clock gets sped up, he has a tendency to make mistakes. Now, O'Connell came in, and he's a little bit different. So if you talk about Minshew first, he's got a guy that can make plays, but he'll also make a big mistake. And you can see here when he gets hurried up, his eyes go down and make plays. O'Connell's a guy who's, in my opinion, is a little bit more calm in the pocket. And he's a guy that they said they might go to a little bit more this week if things don't work out. However, I don't think he can make as big a play as Minshew can. Minshew's a guy who rolls the dice. He's a kind of a gunslinger. But if you can speed up his clock, rush him quickly, he's a guy who will make mistakes. But if you don't, he's a guy who can beat you. He showed it against the Ravens. He made some really good throws against the Ravens. He's a guy that you have to speed up or he will beat you. And that's got to be their number one goal on defense is pressure him, make him make mistakes.
Yeah, and look no further than last year with the Colts. He was a problem for Jim Schwartz and that defense, without question. Another guy who they got to make sure he doesn't ruin the game is their rookie tight end, Brock Bowers.
So you can see a play here. You're gonna see right here. It's a really good play, and this is Brock Bowers against Marlon Humphrey. Really good corner from the Ravens. Now the Raiders do a really good job with motion and trying to create matchup. They have two elite players on offense. They have Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams. Now, in my opinion, Devontae Adams is kind of not happy right now. He's not happy with his touches. You can see it in his body language if you watch the film. Brock Bowers is a rookie, and Brock Bowers is as talented as a guy as I've broken down coming out of the college ranks since I started doing this. He's an elite guy who can beat corners, who can beat safeties. And what the Browns got to do is that they got to make sure, like on this play, he gets matched up with a linebacker if he is at number 2. So they got to make sure that if the safeties are by themselves, they get matched up. Because like I said, this is Marlon Humphrey's matchup against him, and he beats Marlon Humphrey. If he gets matched up against one of the Browns safeties or linebackers, that's a mismatch in his favor. So if that happens in the predominantly man Schwartz coverage that the Browns run, they got to help over the top, or it'll be a long day because Brock Bowers is an elite player.
Yeah, a lot of the things that we say about David Njoku apply to Brock Bowers. Too fast for a linebacker, too big and too strong for a cornerback or a safety. The next one, and I couldn't agree with this point, find offensive identity. You know, we're approaching a quarter of the way through the season. Browns don't have one yet.
So if you look at here, you're going to look at last year. They're in 13 personnel with an extra lineman in. You see Big Teller coming around the edge. And it's not really the play or the players involved. It's the mentality. This is a counter play where everybody's blocking down. They're getting a hat on a hat. You're seeing a lot of guys fight in there. And that's just what you don't see out of the run game. Now, the run game is not built for that this year. They've gone more to a spread. They've gone more to 11 personnel, which does not change the fact that you can run power, you can run counter, you can run your run plays. You don't have as many guys in there. But if you're not practicing this, being physical is not something you can do on game day. Being physical is something you got to do every day in practice. And the Browns are not doing that right now, and it shows. They're not getting as much movement up front. They're not as nasty in their double teams. This is something the Browns got to do. And I don't know what their identity is. And to me, it doesn't matter what their identity is. But this was their identity last year. Regardless who the quarterback was, this was their identity. And I've heard a lot of people talk about Joe Flacco throwing for 300 yards multiple games in a row. Joe Flacco had a run game, and there's a lot to be said about the run game being the best friend of the quarterback. They got to get back to running the ball a little bit. They got to create an identity, or they're going to continue to struggle on offense.
Yeah, I'm quite honestly surprised they haven't used Foreman a little bit more. You know, he played pretty well. They got him the ball early against Jacksonville, and then they didn't get him the ball again against. I'm not down necessarily on Jerome Ford. I'm saying the tandem is what works.
Well, I've said it for weeks. I really, when they signed Deon Foreman, I think Foreman gives them an opportunity to get the 2nd and 6. And people underestimate the importance of being 2nd and 6. And when the Browns are 2nd and 6, they now on offense get to dictate, and they get to do maybe a little bit what they want to do this year, which is spread people out and throw the ball a little bit with Watson. I still think Foreman gives them their best opportunity. I think Ford is an outstanding back, and he'll continue to get better. But Foreman gives me an automatic 4 to 5 yards most of the time. And that's what the Browns lack right now. They're behind the sticks. They're pass only, and teams are teeing off. And again, this is a very good defensive line they're going to see this week with Crosby and Jenkins and Wilkins. So they got to be able to run the ball a little bit, or they're going to struggle again in pass protection.
So the last point, 4, the 4th key in the 4 for beating the Ravens, attack the middle of the field. Take us through what you like about this.
Well, you're going to see here, the first one you're going to see is a really good seam route by Andy Dalton, who threw for 300-plus yards. So really good seam route. Next play you're going to see is a really good dig route, and Andy Dalton delivers it on time. And what you get out of these 2 plays is that Spillane and Masterson, these linebackers from the Raiders, they're typical Raiders linebackers. They play the run very well, but they don't get great depth. Their safeties, on the other hand, do get great depth. So it creates that window between the linebackers and the safeties. If you watch from the end zone copy, the all 22, if you watch all the games of the Raiders, which I got a chance to do this week, there's big windows in there because of the lack of drops from these linebackers. Now, these linebackers play the run very well, but they, like I said, they don't get very much depth, and it creates these big windows. But the Browns have to use great anticipation and great accuracy, something they have not done very well as an offense. That's not all on Deshaun Watson. That's pass protection, that's routes. There's a lot that goes into that. The quarterback takes all the blame. Quarterback always also gets all the credit when things go well. It takes everybody. It takes a village to be a good offense. And this is something they can attack with Raiders' aggressiveness of the linebackers and the depth of the safeties. This middle of the field, that 15 to 25 range, is a really good area to attack on these guys.
So, Lance, you're an offensive coach. Let me ask you this. Can you get it all rolling at once, or things looked so disjointed in the 2 losses? Can they go from where they were to something that looks like a middle-of-the-pack NFL offense?
The answer to that is twofold. One is no, they can't, because there's so many pieces involved. But what you can do is you can be functional and you can improve. And if you get the other parts, so what the offense has to do until they get going, and I've been a part of this, I've had some really good offenses in my time, and I've had some really bad offenses. And what you have to do as an offense, if you're not quite at the level of your defense and your special team, is you need to make sure that you're not putting them in a bad situation. You need to make sure that you kick the ball on every drive, either an extra point, a field goal, or a punt. You need to make sure that you put your defense in a good spot, make the other team go 80. You need to make sure you put your special teams in a good spot. So they have to play complementary football until they can carry the load. And right now they can't. They can't pass protect. They got injuries. They can't run the ball. But yes, they can improve, and they will improve. And Kevin Stefanski has shown the ability to do that. But right now they need to lean on that defense, lean on the special teams, and not put those 2 units in bad situations as an offense.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check it out. Always really good film breakdown, video analysis of all the Browns, especially the matchups. Went with the Raiders today. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Well, big fan of the show. Just want to say the Browns right now look like a top 10 team. And no, not that top 10 team. A top 10 draft picking team this year. If that offensive line don't get squared away, I'm not so sure they won't be picking inside the top 10. My other question is, do you think Dorsey was the right hire? Because I feel like this offense, Stefanski went back to running his own plays. I still feel like Watson don't fit the system. Just want to hear your thoughts. Go Browns. Woo, woo, woo.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in John Macri from PFF. He is co-host of the Fantasy Football Podcast on Pro Football Focus. John, there's no way to defend how poorly they're playing. They're 1-2. They've lost to two teams in the Cowboys and the Giants that are struggling. Right now, the offense looks a mess. I was kind of iffy about John Dorsey when they hired him, and then I liked, the more I looked into it, the more I liked it, but it's not working, and you're almost a quarter of the way. Your fourth week coming up, 17. You're 25% into the season.
Yeah, it's been a rough start. There's no doubt about it. I mean, 1-2, obviously not where you want to be. It's not the end of the world or anything like that, but things don't look quite right now. I'm sure blame can be assigned in a lot of different places, and I'm sure Ken Dorsey, can be a part of that as well. As far as them being like a bottom 10 team, it's hard to say. Like, are they as bad as some of the other teams that are in that same record or 0-3? Like, the Raiders who they played this week, the Broncos, Panthers, Jaguars, Titans, Giants. It's hard to say like whether that'll hold through an entire season. I think the talent is there on both sides of the ball to potentially go on a bit of a run and clean things up a little bit. But so far this season, it hasn't looked that way, and it's easy to assign blame to one person. But I think, there's probably a number of different factors that kind of go into it, right? And injuries potentially being part of it as well. So, it hasn't looked like the best fit just yet, but still early enough that it can be sorted out, I guess.
Yeah, and again, I get it. Fans are frustrated because you just haven't seen enough, and I'm with you. I think the talent level is pretty high. This one from PFF, Week 4 preview. Browns again find themselves looking for answers regarding their porous pass protection despite returning Jedrick Wills Jr. to the lineup last week. He's been ruled out for this week. Over 3 games, this team has allowed an astonishing 114 pressures. That's 38 more than any other team this season. And if you're going to compress something into a nutshell and say, why have they struggled so much? Right there, that's it. 114 pressures. We've only played 3 games.
It's a massive number, right? And those 114 pressures, I think it's 102 if you include the ones that didn't count to penalty because of penalties. But even still, like, it's accounting for plays that the O-line has allowed pressures. It's accounting plays that Deshaun Watson has allowed pressures himself, invited pressure, I guess is the way to say it, and it includes plays where there were multiple pressures on the same play from different players. So there's another situation where there's blame to assign everywhere on this one. And now without Jedrick Wills again this week, no Jack Conklin, obviously Wyatt Teller on IR, it just becomes tougher for everyone. I guess if you're looking for a silver lining to it, for this matchup specifically is they face off against a team in the Raiders that have only generated pressures on 21 separate plays this season, which is tied for the worst mark in the league with the Tennessee Titans. So that should help things from getting, too out of control. I hope, as long as they can, keep Max Crosby in check, which is easier said than done.
So new offensive coordinator who the caller referenced, Ken Dorsey, was asked yesterday, are the struggles a result of this team, this unit, not getting used to this new offense?
When you're looking at the situation we're in right now, it's going to be one of those things where there really aren't any excuses you're going to make. Like we're not in that business. We're in the business of going out and executing on Sunday. So no matter what the situation is for us, we got to grind. We got to go out, work our tails off to put us in position to win a game on Sunday, no matter, if it's running the ball, throwing the ball, whatever that is, So we're not going to sit and make excuses about, should we have done this? Could we have done that? It's about going out, executing at a high level that we know we're capable of doing.
And John, because we have already mentioned, we know Conklin's not playing. We know Wills isn't playing. DeJuan Jones is banged up. Not sure if he's going to go. James Hudson. All of the offensive line, except for like Posick and Bitonio, have been banged up some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
The coaching staff knows that. You have to design plays that you aren't asking your reserve offensive line to hold up for 4 seconds. It's on the offensive play callers.
Yeah, it's a big part of it, right? Like you have to be able to adjust in the NFL because defenses are adjusting, opposing offenses are adjusting. If you can't keep up with that, you're going to fail, right? And when it comes down to injuries and things like that, where weaknesses are being exposed, there's ways around it. It's just figuring out what those ways are, whether it's quick passes, more screens, more, read options with a Deshaun Watson, getting him running the ball, opening things up a little bit, spreading out the offense, whatever it happens to be, there's got to be a way to get around it. And it's just part of the NFL right now. Injuries happen to every single team. And the Browns probably banged up more than a lot of teams at this point, but it's still something that all teams deal with, and all teams, not all teams, are able to overcome. But with the right coaching staff, with the right, personnel usage, then there are ways to kind of get around it. But again, another one of those things maybe easier said than done.
So we mentioned Max Crosby. He's got a high ankle sprain. Myles Garrett's dealing with things on both legs. Multiple injuries to his lower half as well. How do you think they end up doing, and how badly do each of these sides need Crosby for the Raiders, Garrett for the Browns?
Yeah, I mean, I would say they both probably need them equally, in just that for the Raiders, Crosby's kind of all they have as far as pass rush goes, where Garrett is so good at what he does that he's irreplaceable, right? But, we saw it with Myles Garrett last week. He only played, I think, 56% of the snaps, but absolutely dominated one of the best left tackles in the league in Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas came into that game with a 91.9 pass blocking grade. That was the best mark in the league through 2 weeks. And Garrett, when not even 100% healthy, turned him into the second lowest pass blocking grade on the week with a 14.7 in week 3. Now, I don't think Garrett's going to probably play like that 70% snap share this week because they'll probably look to limit him. But, every snap that he is out there, he makes a huge impact for this defense. And, the Raiders offensive line has been pretty good so far this season. They don't have like an Andrew Thomas level player there to contend with Myles Garrett. So that's a huge part of, the key to victory in this game is taking advantage of the opportunities for pressure on Gardner Minshew, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second. But Myles Garrett is obviously a massive part of that. And then as for Crosby, he's kind of been like an Iron Man in the NFL. Like, it doesn't matter if he's dealing with injuries or not. He will play through them. Typically doesn't even miss a snap, which is absurd for a defensive lineman. And even with the high ankle sprain last week, he still played 82% of the team's defensive snaps, which, even while that's low for him, is considered on the high end for defensive linemen. So he's not the elite pass rusher that Myles Garrett is in terms of finesse and speed, but he's close and still very, very good. Plays with a high motor and very difficult to block one-on-one. So while he might not put up like the ridiculous win rates that Garrett does, you're still having to contend with a pretty elite player on almost every single snap. And he wins that war of attrition more often than not, even if he isn't fully healthy. So he is very, very important to that defensive line. And it doesn't seem like he's going to miss this game.
So Myles Garrett was asked yesterday just about Browns defense and what they need to do to help this team win.
Like I said, it's all about execution. It's got to be where we're supposed to be at the right time. And, got to have better eyes, and that's all around the defensive 11. So just about us, being who we know we can be. It's just an expectation that we've had, and we're living up to that.
We
with the offense struggling through 3 games, do you feel as a defense more responsibility to be dominant and take some of the load off them?
It's always our responsibility to be dominant. We have the players to our expectations of ourselves. You know, we come out there expecting to win the game on defense every time we step on the field.
And John, they're probably going to have to. Just the offense is struggling to that level that defense can't afford to have a bad game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they're not playing an elite offense by any means. This week, we know that the Browns can be an elite defense. They have the pieces to do it, especially if Myles Garrett, is out there and doing his thing. So, the defense can very well win this matchup for them just by shutting down that offense, which is definitely something that they're capable of. So, yeah, I agree.
So, Browns passing game, it struggled. Is there a guy or a facet of the Raiders they can take advantage of?
Yeah, there's been, some good players on that defense. Guys like Nate Hobbs have been pretty effective for the Raiders defense, which, could make things maybe more difficult for the Browns, like primary slot Elijah Moore. But Jacorian Bennett kind of stands out as the one to take advantage of here, as well as their safeties too, I should mention, because Trayvon Merrick has really struggled in coverage this season, as well as they'll be without their other starting safety, Marcus Epps, who tore his ACL. So Isaiah Polamau steps in as a starter. He's a 2022 UDFA, was very little starting experience in the league. But yeah, looking at guys like Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy specifically, who likely will get a chance to line up against Jacorian Bennett, since Bennett stays typically locked to one side of the formation, and those guys do move around a little bit. That is going to be, I think, one of the key matchups that Cleveland has to take advantage of in the passing game when they can. The Raiders do run a top 10 rate of man coverage this season, so they'll get their fair share of one-on-ones against Jacorian Bennett. And even with safety help, which again, it hasn't been good for them, this is kind of the biggest area of weakness that I think should be exploitable for the Browns' top receiving weapons. Jacorian Bennett with just a 47.4 coverage grade so far this year, so not good there.
John Macri from Pro Football Focus, and I'm going to step aside, take one more time out, other side of the break. We'll hear from Jim Schwartz about Gardner Minshew. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
You know what I think? I don't think you have the stones.
Oh, I've got the stones. I think you're the one that don't have the stones.
Let's settle this once and for all.
Amble up to the 4 new Ohio Lottery scratch-offs with all kinds of stones. Gemstones. Diamond, emerald, sapphire, and ruby tins. $10 each. 10 times multipliers. 2 fast spots for quick draw wins of up to $100 and a $500,000 grand prize. Which one will you get when you order them up? Well, that's just the luck of the draw.
We continue talking Browns with John Macri from Pro Football Focus. Jim Schwartz, Browns defensive coordinator, was asked about Gardner Minshew. He is the quarterback for the Raiders. Remember, the Browns saw him last year against the Colts, and Minshew hurt him a little bit.
Yeah, made a couple plays with his feet. I think that was probably the big thing. He bought some time on some passes and made a couple plays with his feet, and we have to guard against both of those. He hasn't been designed running very much this year, but everybody we face this year has that component. We have to be ready for that because he does have good mobility. Generally, ball's coming out either really fast or he's holding it a long time. We have to take advantage of the opportunities when he gives us chances. In that Colt game, he gave us a couple chances, and we were able to capitalize enough to get some turnovers, which, ended up flipping the script in that game. But holding down the explosives, keeping him from moving the sticks with his feet on third down, and buying time on first and second down to make big plays down the field, all that go into consideration. He's one of those guys. He can get hot. And we have to keep him from getting hot.
John, when you look at Minshew, the Raiders haven't really used Davante Adams. What's going on with and Adams seems to be not happy that he's not getting the ball more.
Yeah, so one of the issues, Minshew, he's been fine, right? But at the same time, there was also rumblings already that they were going to go away from him and turn to Aiden O'Connell heading into this week. So that change could come at any time. And part of, what's going on with Devontae Adams, at least from what I kind of noticed in how, this Raiders O-line, like they've been good, but they're still outmatched by the Cleveland Browns as far as what the Browns can do in creating pressure. And when pressured, Devontae Adams is not really seeing the ball, right? He so I'm looking at, kind of the numbers here, and the Raiders offensive line, they've allowed an above average pressure rate on the season, but the Browns defensive line, they're our top graded or third best pass rush grade on the year at 82.5, but have earned a 33% quick pressure rate. So that's pressures in 2.5 seconds or less. That's the best mark in the league. So how that affects Adams, coming back to that, is that on non-pressured dropbacks, Devontae Adams has earned a 29.2% target rate. That's the second best mark on the team, behind only Brock Bowers. That's led to a team leading 26 total targets, 203 receiving yards, a touchdown on those plays. But when his quarterback is pressured, they're not getting him the ball. Adams has seen just 3 targets for a 6.7% target rate. That's actually 5th on the team and has resulted in just 1 catch for 6 yards. So that's another one of the kind of key areas to potentially eliminate Devontae Adams from this game, because coverage-wise, he's near impossible to stop. But if you can affect his quarterback, get Gardner Minshew off rhythm, that could potentially take him out of the game. And, if Myles Garrett, even if he isn't fully healthy, he's still a big part of being able to do that, as well as the rest of the Browns defensive line.
You mentioned tight end Brock Bowers, the rookie that they took in the first round. Kevin Stefanski talked about Bowers and what he's seen from him.
Yeah, he's excellent. He was drafted up there in the first round for a reason. They have really 2 good tight ends. I think Mayer is very good as well. But Bowers in particular, very athletic, can block, fast, can make you miss when he gets the ball in his hands. So a complete tight end. He's a very good football player.
So, John, along those lines, PFF.com matchup to watch for the Raiders. It's Brock Bowers against the Browns linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, typically sound coverage linebacker. JOK's some struggles to start 2014, 57.0 grade in coverage. Browns linebacker has surrendered an 108.7 passer, largely due to his 90% open target rate. He has to hold down Bowers. JOK will need to find his footing in coverage, or it could be a long day. Again, they seem to be trying to do some things a little different in coverage. That might be the reason. But Bowers is really good, and he's a guy, he could end up making it a really long day for the Browns defense.
Yeah, so this is one where teams are already quickly learning that they need more to cover Brock Bowers. He's just been so good. And when you put a linebacker on him, any linebacker, he's going to feast. We saw that in how the Raiders were able to beat the Ravens in week 2, because the Ravens left Trenton Simpson on Brock Bowers in the 4th quarter of that game, and they just consistently picked on him. Now, I do think, despite the numbers so far for JOK, I do think he's a better coverage defender than Trenton Simpson, but it doesn't mean he'll be able to necessarily shut down Brock Bowers if they leave him in that man coverage role against him. The plus side of that is that JOK is not moving to the slot a lot this season to cover guys like tight ends, and Brock Bowers is running about 62% of his routes out of the slot, compared to 26% from an inline tight end position. So that helps the matchup a little bit. We do see Grant Delpit, Greg Newsome obviously go to the slot a little bit more and help out there. So I think that part of it is a positive for the Browns, where maybe he doesn't see as much JOK this week than initially kind of projected, but he can still be a matchup nightmare, whether it's a safety or a slot corner as well. So definitely somebody that they need to be able to take out of the game.
Before I let you go, when you look at this, what does it need to look like for the Browns to come away with a win and get to 2-2? Right now, you just want to get to 2-2. What do the Browns need to do to get that win?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the main things for me, at least, we talked about it, the defense, I think, will have a chance against this offense to look dominant again. I don't think, as much as there are very good pieces on this offense, like Brock Bowers, like Devontae Adams, that's basically it, right? Those are the guys that you have to worry about, where there's a lot more defensive stars that can, shut down this offense. So I think taking advantage of that matchup specifically is a big key there. And then coming back to the offensive side, finding the holes in coverage in this Raiders defense is going to be really important for the offense and the passing game specifically to succeed. Deshaun Watson, we know, hasn't looked amazing this year, but there's opportunity there for guys like Amari Cooper, like Jerry Jeudy, who, you know, they're leading receiving yardage players, to take advantage of guys like a Jacorian Bennett, like Trayvon Merrick, like backup safety Isaiah Polamau. So those are kind of the main things for me, is really just taking advantage of where they have such a strong advantage. Again, I keep saying it, but they do have a strong advantage in a lot of key areas where they can come away with the win here.
John Macri, Pro Football Focus, as always. Great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, John.
Thanks for having me.
John Macri, make sure you check him out. PFF fantasy analyst, also a co-host of the Fantasy Football Podcast. We're a step aside. Actually, we're done. That's it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.